Hello, everybody from Vermont on a steamy 90-degree day. And if you see me glowing, just know I just turned on the AC, which I usually wait to until August. So there are some really great questions coming in this month. I want to let you know that July 31st is going to be our next one, and then we won't have one in August. But I'm going to be having someone special join me. I've decided to invite either clinicians or other chefs to just get another opinion and other source of information out there for you. So let's start with the questions. It's too hot to cook today, so I didn't do anything. Now, there's two questions about the culinary medicine coaching program, the food coaching program. And if you're not familiar with it, it's an online program through Rouxbe, and it is 150 hours. And so that will help you, Tamara, figure out how much time you want to spend in it. So you have as much time as you would like to take the food course, the Food Coach Academy courses. There's 13 courses in it. I recommend that you don't do it any faster than 6 months, unless perhaps you already know how to cook really well. And we have people joining that know how to cook really well, a lot of them, and some that don't know how to cook at all. So what makes it more 6 months versus you could do it in probably 4 is that I want those that don't know how to cook yet to continue to practice and practice and practice, because we all know practice makes perfect. And for those of you that do know how to cook, there's also motivational interviewing in there, and that takes a lot of practice as well. So I would say between 6 months and a year, 150 hours, you can do it less or more time. We have people taking their time with it, because what you can do with the Food Coach Academy is begin to work in the very beginning stages and do demonstrations and start working as what one of our students calls a food coach in training. It is, let's see, how many times per week does a serious applicant need to excel in this course? I would say 6 to 10 hours, Tamara. And I know Svetlana is part of the Whole Foods plant-based, which the Food Coach Academy absolutely is. And she also doesn't do sugar, oils, and salt. So I want to tell you why I built the Food Coach Academy and why I built it not as a vegan program or a strictly vegetarian program. And if you've heard me speak before, you know the stats. 5% of Americans are vegetarian and 3% are vegans. If we as food coaches, if we as clinicians, if we as chefs set up an unattainable goal for 95 to 97% of the population, we just unnecessarily stress them out and give the message that unless you do this, unless you're pure plant-based, you will not reap any benefits, and nothing could be further from the truth. In the Food Coach Academy, we constantly lay out how you can introduce more plant-based foods into one's diet. And then, because it's based on motivational interviewing, the client gets to decide how far down that plant-based world they want to go. I have food coaches that are vegetarian. Some are vegan. Some are, I will not touch an animal product. How can I take the course? Well, Rouxbe and I already thought of that, of course. You can show cooking competencies like roasting and braising with a head of cauliflower if you want, instead of a piece of beef, if it really offends you. And I get that, and I honor that. For those of you that are wanting to cook with a more broad range of audience who do have meat, either they're eating a ton of it and you want to help them get to a point where they're eating much less of it, then I would say it's important for you to take one of the courses is animal-based protein. One of the courses is about fats and oils. We have a whole course on sugar and a whole course on salt. So those of you that want to be really strict about it, we got you, right? But now I want to talk about the Whole Foods plant-based, Svetlana, that you talked about. Absolutely, this program is great for that. When it comes to no sugar, oil, and salt, in the sugar class, we teach you how to teach others to cook with fruit, mostly fruit. And for those that do make, let's say, zucchini bread or something, how they can reduce the amount of sugar using an algorithm that is the baker's percentage, or we have some tips and tricks for you to lower the amount of sugar in someone's food. For someone to go totally sugar, oil, and salt free, you're probably looking at less than 3% of the population. But if that's who you want to work with solely, then absolutely. You will learn science in each of those chapters. You will learn how to use motivational interviewing to help someone reduce their salt intake, and how to make flavors sing without the use of salt or decrease the amount of salt. And same with sugar. You teach them how to lower the amount of sugar. And again, if you want them to be the bosses of their own life and they're like, okay, this is enough, I need to have a little bit. Like some people will say, I just need that one half a teaspoon in my coffee in the morning. Great, enjoy it while and mindfully consume that. So I would say that I'm hoping that answers your question. If you have other lingering questions, please put it in the chat. So I'm going to scroll down now. And I do hope that you all join the Food Coach Academy, because what I'm seeing now in the food is medicine world, and I've been doing these talks for over a year now, is that they're finally catching on. In the healthcare setting, no one's got time for that. Your doctor doesn't have time for that. Your dietitian doesn't usually have time to teach you how to cook or be the at the elbow support in your community. And that is why coaches that specifically know how to teach others to cook, I am seeing people actually ask for that. So I would imagine, and I am seeing the desire to train food coaches go up significantly. All righty. Penny, you're replacing your plastic cutting boards. You don't like the wood because they're hard to sanitize. And what do you think of new aluminum cutting boards? Do they dull knife blades? Yes. Anything that's really hard, Penny, like glass or any type of metal is going to dull your knife. On these really hard surfaces, your knife also can slip. So it's a little more, I'm not going to go so far as dangerous, but you have to be more careful with it. I personally would suggest one of two things. I would suggest either you transition to a bamboo cutting board, which isn't wood, but it looks like it and it acts like it, except the pores are so much smaller, so they're not going to draw in potential pathogens. So like if you're cutting up meat or chicken or seafood, you can better clean a bamboo than you can a wood. I think like you, Penny, am nervous. I don't want to put anything raw unless it's plant-based on my cutting boards. So I do have a plastic cutting board that I use maybe once a month to cut up my chicken breast. Steak happens like maybe twice a year, or my fish. But what happens when you use the plastic cutting boards is you get microplastics. So when you're cutting it up, you're releasing some plastic into your food and you are consuming microplastics. And I really don't like that. So if I was to, that's why I don't use it often at all. So I'm hoping that helps for you. I would suggest switching to the bamboo. And actually, after looking into this, I'm probably going to go out and buy a bamboo myself so that I can do the meat on that without getting microplastics in my food. All right. So now Haya wants to know about food and insomnia. Well, with everything that I say all the time, it's about hopefully you have a healthful diet and what that means to you. So low in ultra processed foods, low in foods that are going to stimulate you, meaning they're going to rise your sugar level and make them crash, which is your added sugar and your ultra processed foods. Those in your diet will cause you to spike during the night and then crash and you end up waking up. So having less processed food in your diet would be my number one recommendation. My number two recommendation is the saying, what is it? Eat breakfast like a king, eat lunch like a is it a queen? I'm hoping not. Let's call it a jester, and eat breakfast as dinner as a popper, meaning the majority of your food, the heavier foods are in the beginning of the day. So by the time you get to dinner, you're not eating a heavy meal loaded with calories or fat, because that in and of itself, the increase in calories and fat will interrupt your sleep cycle. So there's that. I also am a big believer in not eating anything before you go to bed, 2 to 3 hours, and that you give your body the time to rest and to really have this fast cycle from 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed until you wake up. You will feel so much better when that happens. And then, how's your magnesium level? Magnesium really can help you sleep, as well as having maybe a little bit of a snack. If you tend to wake up hungry, then have something with dairy in it, like yogurt, or actually walnuts have been shown to help with sleep. So, to reiterate, making sure that ultra processed foods and high sugar foods, no caffeine sources after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, making sure that's your baseline, stopping eating before you go to bed, and let's not forget the whole stress part of your day. Stress, no matter how good your diet is, no matter how many supplements you're taking, if you don't have a good stress reduction technique in your day, going for walks or mindfulness, however you bring it in. For me, it's cooking, chopping vegetables, however you bring in mindfulness to decrease your stress, you add that on top of it. And I hope you have some happy sleeping days ahead of you, not days, nights. All right. All right, Jason, this was a loaded question, and it's one that I absolutely I'm going to answer your question both as a scientist, nutritionist, and as somebody who was diagnosed with a terminal illness 31 years ago today. Not today, July 4th. Right. So the best place for you to get the science, you want proof. So the latest edition, and this is what we learned in our PhD program, it's called Modern Nutrition in Health and Disease. That's Modern Nutrition in Health and Disease. Catherine Tucker, I used to work with Katie Tucker, and the date is 2026, which it isn't now, so I don't know how they put that on their copyright. But anyway, Modern Nutrition in Health and Disease. There is a magnitude of studies that show that nutrition can help heal and prevent disease. When you are talking about healing from a terminal illness, you're in a completely different ballpark. And you're in a different ballpark because I don't believe there is research on that. To me, I tried to find the research on that for my non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and there wasn't any. And so the most important journey that I ever took in my life was from going from my head and what other people were telling me, whether it was the medical doctors saying this was going to kill me, or it was the naturopaths saying, don't do what the docs are telling you because it's going to kill you. And I was able to dive deep into my heart and really look at what this message was bringing to me. Now, I will say, Jason, I was in a support group with other people who had my same diagnosis, my same age, and some did not survive and some did. And to this day, people ask me why that is. And Jason, I have no idea. All I know is that I really decided to take one step at a time. I didn't know what to do in a week or in 2 weeks or in a month or a year, but I knew what was the next step to take. And that was to get out of a really bad relationship. And then the next step was to really dive into the nutrition. And the next step was to look into supplements. And the next step was to look into alternative practitioners that spoke to me. It felt right for me. Because I can't tell you something proven that will help an individual's terminal illness besides hopefully gaining more awareness into yourself and what it is you want, no matter how long your life is and how you want to live it until it's over. That's how we're all living. And if it's not you and it's somebody that you know, I wish you the best, and I'll keep you in my thoughts and prayers. And that's my answer to your question. All right. Maria, what could I substitute for beans, including soybeans and sweet potatoes, if result in bloating, gassiness, despite soaking for 48 hours using Epizote if I would like to be a vegetarian? Well, applause, Maria. You want to be a vegetarian. Congratulations. And you gave 2 examples of foods that are the highest in FODMAPs. And I don't know if you've heard of the low FODMAP diet, but FODMAPs are fermentable strands of sugar. So it's fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides, and FOD. Oligosaccharides, FOD, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Yes, it's a mouthful. So individuals that are having trouble with foods that are high in FODMAPs, which is like onions and garlic, and legumes, especially soybeans and sweet potatoes, my first suggestion to you would be to find out what's going on in your gut. Do you have irritable bowel syndrome? Do you perhaps have SIBO, which is small intestinal bowel overgrowth? Do you have maybe celiacs or a gluten insensitivity or dairy insensitivity? And I would look into that first. And the people that I would suggest you visit for that would be a naturopathic physician or a dietitian or a clinician that does functional medicine. So they've done training in nutrition as a treatment for illness, not just preventative. And get yourself a diagnosis. You absolutely can become a vegetarian. If you are reacting to FODMAPs, some people just need to be FODMAP free and then they can introduce them back in. But if I were you, I would suggest seeing someone to figure out what is at the bottom of it. And you might never know what's at the bottom of it. And you might need to do an elimination diet, which is try a diet for 3 to 4 weeks that is FODMAP free. And you can go online, FODMAP, FODMAP free diets. They're all over the place. And if that doesn't work, then try eliminating all gluten for a month and see how you feel, or all dairy for a month. But I'd prefer that you had a guide helping you with that. So good luck, Maria. All right. Mary, can you make some suggestions on how to support women through hormonal change? Mary D, I will give you the guru of all gurus, which is Christine Northrup, Northrup, RUP. She has been around for 30 to 40 years, and she has a website, and the link is there for you. And she is the one person I would send someone to. Go to her website and click around there. The baseline from a nutrition standpoint, again, is foods that don't stimulate. So no ultra processed foods, no, very low in added sugar. Anything that's a stimulant sometimes can make the hot flashes come on, like caffeine and chocolate. There will be some foods that might trigger you. It's making sure that you're eating mostly plant-based meats that someone actually asked me the other day. She said she'd been through menopause. She was in her 70s and said she'd been through menopause and had hot flashes. And when she eats meat, she still has a hot flash at night. And I said to her, that's called the meat sweats, right? Because some meat has hormones in it and you might, have a flash because of meats. So things like meats, I would decrease. Things like dairy, I would eliminate while I was going through it, but making sure you get enough calcium, because you're also going to be at risk of losing bone and muscle. So making sure you get enough protein and calcium in your diet, and vitamin D is really important. So making sure you have a whole foods, plant-based diet, not that you can't eat other things, that you have a really good source of healthful fats. And so that is your omega-3 fats that are in flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds. They're also in fatty fish. Making sure that you have a really great hormone fat balance with the healthful fats. And you need to be pooping every day. And if you're not pooping every day, the hot flashes are not going to go away. You need to eliminate toxins from your body on a regular basis. So making sure you get enough fiber so that you can eliminate toxins in your body. I hope that helps you, Mary D. And now we have 2 questions from Janet. I've been told in order to activate turmeric, you must add black pepper. Why? Very good question, Janet. So turmeric, the active ingredient in turmeric is called curcumin. And about 5% of turmeric is made up of curcumin. Now you want that curcumin to stay in your body to be anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, to be really powerful in helping heal your body, right? And then in black pepper, you have an ingredient called pepperine, and 5% of black pepper is made up of pepperine. Well, what pepperine does is it slows the rate of metabolism of that curcumin, meaning the curcumin is going to stay in your blood for a longer period of time instead of just being metabolized really quickly. So when you add black pepper to your turmeric, you are increasing by 2,000% the amount of curcumin that is going to be in your blood. So that is why you must have black pepper when you are taking turmeric. Another one, I've been experiencing pain in my heel and just muscle pain in general. And what that speaks to me is an inflammatory background in your body. So when you ask for foods, spices, and herbs that can help reduce inflammation other than turmeric, Janet, I would ask you to look deeper into what your overall diet looks like. Is it an anti-inflammatory diet? Now, I always have to bring this up, the nightshades, because you have some joint pain. Some individuals are sensitive to nightshades, your tomato, potato, eggplant, and peppers. And when they eat that, they just, they get inflamed and their joints hurt. In my experience over the decades, it really is more of a general inflammatory response based on either there's an offending food in your diet, and it doesn't mean that you've had it your whole life. What I am seeing, and I was surprised at like 15, 20 years ago, is I would start seeing a lot of women in their 50s and 60s who never had an issue with food, all of a sudden not being able to handle, it's usually dairy or gluten or some other allergen, but it's those two are the top ones. And once we remove those, and I use this supplement called Ultra Inflamex from Metagenics, they're able to decrease their level of inflammation. And changing your diet if you need to change it. And then I would suggest working with, again, a naturopath or a functional medicine practitioner. Okay. Next one, but I'm going to have to take a drink of water because I feel like it's 99 degrees in here. Okay, Tamara. I'm looking very forward to this event. Thank you. I'm trying to assess the use of papali, its health benefit and possible risk. I love this question because I get asked it in some way, shape, or form every time I give a talk. Individuals wanting to start an herb. And I have some basic information for you to make that decision for yourself and some general. So let's talk about the general. When someone's wanting to introduce something into their diet, I always say, look up the benefits and risks. And usually the risks are it may interact with medication and you may have an allergy to it. So starting slow is always a great place to start. And with any supplements, if you're going for surgery, just get off of it. It's just not, it's not worth the risk of influencing blood clotting. A lot of herbs influence blood clotting. So I would start there. And then you chose an herb that is housed within a whole medical system called Ayurveda, right? And so you're choosing an herb that supports Pitta. So in Ayurvedic medicine, there are 3 doshas. And the closest I can come to in the Western world is kind of like personality, but like body personality, like what your body attunes to. So it includes food and such. Pitta is about fire. Vata is about air, and Kasha is more about the earth. And Papali is it's firing. So like if I took Papali today, as hot as I am, it's not going to make me feel good. And when you are picking out an herb from a whole system that is based on your dosha, I would say, be more cognizant of it. I would maybe look up Ayurvedic medicine. I would look up, you can actually try and figure out where your dosha is. And if you really are drawn to Ayurvedic medicine, which a lot of people are, then you can actually try and find somebody who um, works in Ayurvedic medicine. So papali it can decrease your blood sugar, slow blood clotting, and interact with meds that I already started out with. So that's what I would say. And trust yourself. Know what you're walking into. And definitely with any type of supplement, make sure there's a GMP on the bottle, which stands for good manufacturing process, meaning that you're buying what it says it is and not other things in there. So you have to make sure that you do spend the money to get something that has been tested and validated. That is, again, my number 2 general rule when you're looking for supplements to help yourself in certain things. And the third thing, which is just as important, is that, again, your diet needs to be a healthful one to begin with while adding on other things to help. Great. All right. So then we have diet and menopause. We have the link there, the curcumin link for Janet. What helps with hair growth and prevent baldness? Roshni, what you need to grow hair, I'm just going to start there. You need a good source of protein, zinc, iron, biotin, and vitamins C, A, D, and E. Right? Those are really important vitamins for hair growth, as well as your protein intake. However, all you need to do is look at your mother's father, and that's where you're going to go, no matter how much of the nutrients that you actually get. What it can do is make sure that the hair that you were genetically destined to have is great hair. But preventing baldness, a diet in and of itself isn't going to prevent baldness. It will help you create strands of hair that are stronger, more lush maybe, but it's not going to prevent your baldness. In that way, you would have to seek out other types of treatments for preventing baldness. And I know because my 23-year-old started going bald at the age of 22, and it's really hard. And again, I'm at fault because my dad looked like that too. So as a mother, I am sorry. He just walked by. All right, here we go. And then feed your skin right. So I actually was just on a call for about an hour with Mark Tager, and there's a link here. Excuse me. Hairball. All right. Dr. Mark Tager. It's about feeding your skin right. And it's not just about you need these vitamins. He also goes into what is your genotype? So we're all born with genes. What is your phenotype, right? So just because you have something genetic doesn't mean that you can't influence it, especially with nutrition and nutrients, because your genes like this, but what turns on and off certain switches, inflammation not, absorbing vitamin A not, absorbing folate not. So for instance, I don't have the gene that takes the inactive form of folate and makes it into the active form of folate. So I need to take the end product that goes past that enzyme. I know this is sounding complicated, but if you read his book, he lays it out in a very simple, methodical way, and you can do some genotype and phenotyping to see what your genes look like, as well as what foods can really help you with your skin. And he doesn't mention hair, but what's good for the skin is good for the hair. All right. And now McP. McP. I'm going to refresh my screen just to make sure that I've got everything here. Good. I'm glad I did that. I meet people who like the idea of delicious, healthy food, but do not want to cook for all kinds of reasons. This made me chuckle. Absolutely. And McP, part of that is if I ask a room full of people what cooking means, for very many of them, it means scratch cooking. And that's not necessarily where you have to go to. So I break up cooking into 5 different stages. You get everything at the store. You get everything at the store and you add a salad. You get your chicken at the store, but you add your vegetable and your grains. And then you make your pasta and the sauce, and then you just buy one thing, and then everything that is cooked. So finding out where people are on that scale is important, but we all every day have 3 to 5 choices that we make for what's for dinner, lunch, and snacks and breakfast. And we can, no matter where we are in that spectrum, make it healthier. So for me, what food coaches are all about is, okay, how can I take Jenny? Jenny just she's a lawyer and she just grabs things on her way home from work. I'm going to teach her how to make a salad, or how to put together an overnight oats so that she wakes up, she actually has a homemade breakfast, right? And how you can add on little bits of preparation and cooking, no matter where you are on your daily stress level, with what your ingredients you have, and all of that. It's done in a stepwise approach. It's done by asking the individual what they would love to learn to cook. So they don't want to learn for all kinds of reasons. I bet you there's one thing they would really love to cook, and I'd start there. All right. Anna Karen, I'm 59, had BMI of 30, try to eat healthy food and find it hard to lose weight. Any advice? Yeah, that is the question of all questions. And I'm sure you've been looking at these GLP-1 miracle weight loss and such. And those things work by decreasing your hunger signals, and people are losing a lot of weight. And I will tell you that unless that program goes for a very long maintenance phase, the vast majority who lose weight with that will tend to gain it. So I've actually been asked by a collection of clinics to create some support for individuals that are losing weight and wanting to maintain it. So I will tell you that it starts with a healthful diet, mostly plant-based. If I tell somebody to just do one thing, I'll say, try getting rid of all the added sugar and added white flour out of their diet, and they will drop weight very quickly right away. So if you haven't gotten rid of the ultra processed foods and you haven't gotten rid of the added sugar in your diet, I would suggest doing such, and slowly introducing one food group at a time. So what does your fruit intake look like, Anna Karen? Does it look like mostly juices or smoothies? I would have you work, and as would any food coach, improving your fruit. And then you're like, well, I really want to work on my protein intake. And then we'd help you work there and make slow changes that will become sustainable for you based on your diet preference, as well as the types of tastes and flavors that you really love. You will not lose weight if you are not working out. And that, when I say working out, I mean both lifting weights, because the active part of your body that is burning the calories are your muscles, and you need to build the muscles to burn more calories. So 2 to 3 times a week, there should be some weightlifting, whether that's you're doing your own push-ups, pull-ups, getting cans and doing bicep curls, or going to a gym. And then every day doing at least 20 minutes of walking, or get your body moving. So your body needs to move. You need to keep yourself hydrated. You will not lose weight if you're not hydrated. And if you're not hydrated, you're not pooping, and you need to poop every day. You're not going to lose weight. So let's just go over that, making sure that your food is whole plant-based foods mostly, that you are getting exercise and weightlifting and having enough water and walking. And if those don't work for you, then I would suggest that you see a professional to help you take the next step in your journey. And my most important piece of advice is love yourself where you are right now, because if you can't do that, that's going to inhibit your ability to love your future self. All right. In our org or in higher ed, we see growing awareness, interest in healthy food, but demand still reflects the opposite, even with many options. Any suggestions for increasing take rates of healthy food? Yeah, Bailey, I mean, I basically have studied this for the past 30 years. And it's not about giving people more information, right? So higher ed, you can tell people to your blue in the face. When I set up the Weight and Wellness Center and held focus groups, I would just get angry responses from individuals that had at least 50 pounds to lose. Like, stop telling me I don't know the difference between an apple and a bag of potato chips. So really what it is, to me, what the missing link is really about connection. And it's about honoring where a person is and doing so in a very specific delivery of that information. So that's what I spent my career studying. So instead of saying eat a healthy diet and asking you to make 220 decisions with 160 recommendations, no one's going to be able to follow it, and no one is following it. But if I say to you, what do you want to work on right now? Or my patient or an individual, do you want to just work on your fat intake right now for, let's give it a month? And, or would you want to work on your treat intake? Let's give it a month. And you do slow and steady, then you're going to see the sustainability. And we don't eat, when we look at how we came into this planet, however many years ago that was, and how we came together as tribes and villages and families. If we take the connection piece out of food, if we continue to look at just the science of food, we're missing the heartbeat of dietary change. All right. I'm involved in the Green Roots Diabetes Program to get your A1C, which is a measure of blood sugar, and weight control to lose 150 pounds. Congratulations, Susan V. I was recommending forks over knives to get 60, 80% plant-based. Wonderful. Can you share any recipes with no spice, peppers, and sugar? No spice? No spice or peppers? I get the no sugar, but no spice and no peppers? You cannot handle heat. Okay, thank you. Oh, spiciness. Okay. All right. So the spiciness is really about a different type of receptor. So you can't have that and you can't have the taste of sugar. But what you can learn to do is to bring out the sugary taste through culinary techniques. So roasting potatoes and roasting vegetables, you will crave these vegetables. So using different types of cooking techniques will help you add taste and flavor to your food. I don't promote specific recipes. I promote a backdrop of a recipe. So if you're going to do a soup or a stew, I'm going to let you choose what protein, grain, spices, and vegetables you want in it. And then I'm going to show you how to put it all together. So I would suggest finding spices that are not hot that you can consume. And then there actually is a smaller course on Rouxbe called Taste and Flavor. And I would highly recommend that you take that because it's going to show you how you can build taste and flavor in about 5 other ways besides having to resort to spicy food and sugar. So I would recommend that, going to Rouxbe and look Taste and Flavor course. I think that will really help you. Does black pepper lose its pepperine as it sits on the shelf for a long time? Any food will lose some of its power, if you will, if it's there for a very long, long time. They're pretty dense and hard, so I wouldn't imagine it degrades very fast at all. With black pepper, however, I like to dry heat it until it kind of brings out that odor and then grind it to kind of freshen it up. So that wouldn't be something that I would. Oh, if you're talking about already ground pepper, I would say get some fresh pepper. Buy the peppercorns and then toast it and put it in a coffee blend grinder and kind of grind it yourself that way to get a real potent pepperine dose. Yeah, so I have pending questions here. All right. So Susie A, aside from a balanced diet, fiber, probiotics, antioxidants, and addressing inflammation, what are other focal points for optimal health? Enjoyment. Slowing down and eating your food. You could have the healthiest of diets, but if you're scarfing it down while you're checking your email, it's not going to assimilate well within your body. I would suggest bringing back joy. I would add joy. Aside from a joyful balance, fiber, probiotic, antioxidant addressing inflammation, I would do joy. I would suggest you honor your cultural heritage and dive into some of the spices and the traditions of where you came from and bring that in, the connection. I would say cook with other people and bring in the love and the connection and the sharing and the laughter around a table. Um, that would be what I would say. And I'm just making sure balanced diet, fiber, probiotics, and well, water and variety. And I think you've got it all. What are some effective ways a person can improve their relationship with their body? Susie, that's a very, very good question. And it's one that I've struggled with my whole life because even at a young age, I was told I was fat and I never was. And that is something that I've carried around with me for most of my life. And I think looking back, what I would say is that it's a long journey to undo the messages that were given to us. And there are lots of reasons why we might have a not good relationship with our body, besides what others are telling us we should and should not look like. It takes any one of these, a trusted advisor, whether that's a clinician, a pastor, somebody who can help you really dive into what your relationship is with food. I I give a talk called the Food Shaman, where I really talk about the different aspects of food and have people go through that. Like, what was your role in your family? Were you the pretty one? And again, in those focus groups for Weight and Wellness Center, I'm the ugly duckling, or I'm the fat one in the family. And these are like characteristics or terms that were put on them, and they still carry them around 50 years later. Uh, and usually, if you don't have a good relationship with your body, it's not your messages in there that are the monkey brain, right? They're the ones that came from other people, and being able to slow down and distinguish between what is true to yourself and what have they been telling you that is not true. That takes commitment and love. And I had a really good friend once say to me, every time I was struggling, she would say, compassion, compassion, compassion. So every time you are in that situation where you're not thinking good about your body, just have compassion, and it does take time. Um, and good luck to you on that. I am, let's see, you can reach me at drdebkennedy.com. I do some individual stuff, not much of it, but you can reach me in the contact section. And I wish all of you a beautiful June and July with amazing fresh food with basil and cilantro, and making what I call nice teas, putting tea bags in and putting it out and letting the sun shine on it, and just bring back that joy and your connection with food. That is what I wish for all of you.